start the show.
For Thursday, February 23rd, 2017, welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hello and welcome everyone out there and everyone in here to a fresh week, a sunny day, and a new podcast, episode 388 for those of you counting. I'm Norm, and I am joined this week back from vacation, both Jeremy Williams.
Still sick.
A little sick, a little hoarse in the throat, and Kishore Hari.
I guess scientific conferences are vacations now. I'm excited about that.
Yes, holiday from the podcast. Vacations from hanging out with me every week to talk about all sorts of stuff.
You seemed to do okay last week on your own with Steve.
Yeah, Steve was great. Steve Lynn, as I said last week, getting to chat with Steve Lynn was like making up for when I was gone and you guys had Steve Lynn on.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about the exact same things.
So you got to basically redo that podcast we did, and you talk about Switch. And
I brought out all my notes from everything I wrote down as I was listening to the episode on the airplane.
Steve, I heard you just went to Japan. Tell us about it.
I learned a lot about his VR, the VR parks he went to. It was very exciting. Speaking of Switch is like we are a week, a little over a week and 2 days away from the launch of Nintendo Switch.
Yep.
Is that right?
Are you going to have Switch parties? You guys going to get together?
So here's a question for people out there. Should we hold off our podcast next week until we get Switch in?
Until Friday?
Yeah.
Oh,
It would be a day, but we also don't know what time on Friday we're going to get our Switches in.
right. And we'd have to play it.
And we'd have to play them a little bit.
I'd say give it a week.
Yeah, it'll have to be the following week. I did over the past weekend realize that even though I had pre-ordered the Switch, I did not buy any games. I just rushed to buy the hardware. But I did buy the games.
I think it'll be all right.
No, you need the games.
No, obviously you need the games, but you didn't have to pre-order them. I mean, you can get them probably release day, no problem, or pre-order them now.
I did. I did eventually. I picked up, pre-ordered Zelda and 1-2 Switch. And also pre-ordered Mario Kart, which is coming out much later.
You don't think they're going to run out of games, do you?
I don't think they're going to run out of games. They're apparently the game boxes are showing up. Giant Bomb had a stream earlier in the week where they played 1-2 Switch. So
What?
Nintendo reps are going around showing off.
Oh, okay.
And the reason, legally.
Because
yes.
Nintendo did say that one of the YouTube videos that surfaced was a stolen unit.
Stolen from some employees of some retailer and then illegally sold. So those videos show this a little bit of the UI, but I don't know if that was a reason that Nintendo's doing a press tour. They're not coming to us, but they did go to some other outlets, show off the Switch. And the reason I did pick up 1-2 Switch is I am really curious about that Ice Cube game. I need to see the haptics.
What do they call it? HD haptics or something?
HD haptics.
Yeah, I want to too.
I'm so curious.
I got that. Why wouldn't you get that? There's only 2 games available.
Is
right?
it 1-2 Switch and Zelda?
Yeah, that's
the only ones that you care about.
Right.
Is Bomberman a launch title?
Oh, not the last I heard, but maybe.
Yeah, it's not a. It's. I guess you can be a completist.
That's right.
And if you
I
pre-order
own
on
the
Amazon,
complete
I know,
library
right?
of Switch games.
Right. Take that, Steve Lynn. I too am a collector of arcade games and classic games. Well, I also didn't know that if you pre-order games on Amazon, because it's been so long since I've bought a game on Amazon, you get like $10 off.
Yeah, what's up with that? How did they do that?
They've been doing it since 2015, apparently.
Are they just taking a loss?
I only buy stuff on digital.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
It's a good deal.
it's a great deal. Yeah, I was nice because it's like $60 for game. Okay, and then it turned out being $50 plus tax.
Do they send you a physical thing?
So they do. And the other story with Switch, and I know we're going ahead of ourselves, is that the boxes are extremely wasteful. It's like these DVD-sized boxes, and then it just have the art and the inside, literally no booklet. It is just a small cartridge in an inset, and that's it.
I thought you were going to say it was a code.
Oh, no. That would be even worse. Yeah.
They should set up vending machines then.
Yeah.
And just have the tiny... I mean, depends how many users are going to be. I mean, I think it's a great idea. Like, Snapchat did their vending machines for the glasses, And if Nintendo opened up their hardware or made it easy for indie developers to make like these one-hit games and limit release them in cities and schools around malls and stuff, where you'd have to drop, and that's the only place you can download or buy for $5 or $10 this one-hit game and collect the cartridge, that would be a good marketing campaign.
I'm sure if Nintendo had their way, it would all be downloads, though. They're probably not going to spend any money on, brick and mortar.
Well, you can put micro SD on here. And so leading up to the Switch, the things you should buy: a micro SD card if you're going to have a Switch. They're really cheap now. Get a 128 gig. You should also get a USB Ethernet adapter. So we talked about last week how there's going to be some LAN play.
Yeah,
I'm so curious about that.
What's the benefit of that over just being on the same Wi-Fi network?
So with Splatoon, you can do LAN play without connecting online.
Okay, but if I do connect online, can I still do LAN play locally?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think so.
So you're saying you might need the Ethernet cable to do some things?
To do like the low latency competitive LAN play. Like
Okay.
if you want to play in an airplane, if you're going camping, that's how you're going to, if you have no internet reception, you can play your Splatoon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of this is just me bearing the lead so that Kishore can build up enough energy to talk about the thing we didn't talk about last week, which is Marvel's Infinity War.
We're gonna need a pop culture thing.
Yeah,
first.
we're going to have to go to
All
a
right.
different.
Pop culture, news culture.
That's right. Hear the sound of stones being revealed.
All right, we can't play too much more of that, Kishore. That is the video clip that Marvel/Disney released a week and a half ago now that you went crazy for to announce the beginning of production for Infinity War, the big Phase 2 culmination event.
Phase 3 culmination.
Oh, Phase 3, that's right, yeah. Avengers. Age
It's
of
a
Ultron's
culmination of everything that started in Iron Man in what, like 2009 is when that movie came out?
Well, technically, Incredible Hulk came out before then, but they had
We
not,
don't count that
yeah.
movie. But yes, it was everything that I've been waiting for. I'm a huge Thanos fan. I have a collection of gauntlets and Thanos figures that made their appearance online.
As you are the authority on this, Kishore, is it Thanos or Thanos?
I actually like the long A, but it's a Greek word from Thanatopsis, meaning death. So,
wow. So it's Thanos.
but to each their own. It's your relationship with death that really drives the name. So
Always Thanos for me.
So I'm a massive fan of this, and they did the reveal, and they had Tony Stark and Spider-Man and Star-Lord. I'm not even referring to them by their real names anymore. That's
The
how
actors playing them.
immersed
Yeah.
in this. On set, talking about the first day of filming, we saw some shots of Kevin Feige and their work table, which actually looked at a sort of heavily referenced Infinity Gauntlet book on the table. So I think we can expect more from that comic series in the movie than from the actual Infinity War comic book. And thank goodness there won't be from Infinity Gauntlet Volume 2, which we do not acknowledge as being a comic book that came out. And we still have one stone to go.
Yeah. Which stone is it?
The Soul Stone.
Oh. Do you think it's going to be unveiled in Guardians 2? Guardians
I think
Galaxy
it's
2?
Guardians 2. I think we're going to meet Adam Warlock, and I think...
You think we're going to get Adam Warlock in Guardians 2? Is that going to be a big surprise?
Adam Warlock's got to come.
Holy smoke.
I think he's coming.
But Lee
He's
Pace
in
was already cast as Ronan.
Yeah, but I think Adam Warlock's husk is in the collector's workshop right now. And I think he's going to emerge from that. I don't know where the Soul Stone's going to be, if he's going to have it directly. Here's what I'm actually hoping for from the film. I'm actually hoping because it's a 2-part film. I hope the first part is Thanos actually going and getting all the gems from those different heroes that have them currently.
You mean make it follow the antagonist?
And that was actually what's been hinted, that the main character of this is him, not so much the heroes.
They did get Josh Brolin. Yeah.
That
would be a really great way to twist it around, and also structurally an easier way than to find some reason for all these different movies and different heroes to come together.
Yeah,
really
because
pose it as a series of
he has
vignettes.
to go to the Collector to take the Ether. He has to go to Vision to take the Mind one. Doctor Strange has the Time one right now. The Nova Corps has the Power gem. So he has a lot of places to go right now.
I like this idea. Would this extinguish some of their powers?
It would neutralize the Vision.
It would neutralize aspects of the Vision, but no one's really using these except the Vision right now. I guess Doctor Strange used it, but he
was
got
told to put it back.
heavily reprimanded for doing so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not sort of crucial to their powers.
It's all under their care, the hero's care.
I am so goddamn excited to see this a reality. I remember when they announced it at that Kevin Feige press conference where he announced like movies out to 2020. How many years ago that was? And they showed this iconic image of Thanos like holding the gauntlets with all the gems in it, and people lost their mind. And I was watching a live stream, losing my mind as well. So this is a culmination of something big.
Thanos.
I'm just gonna keep going. I'm gonna say it's Thanos to me.
All right, are we gonna get a commentary of the movie after the movie comes out? It's next year.
I mean,
are you gonna
I might do live commentary, or if you're in the theater with me watching it. But
am I gonna be able to download? Maybe it's premium content, a 2-hour long MP3 file that I can sync up and listen with you in my ear, as if maybe we'll do some binaural recording, so you can like have you either in the left seat or the right seat, and make it feel like you're sitting next to the person watching the movie in the theater.
I'm pretty sure my wife would unsubscribe from this because she's had, many years of hearing about this.
You could host a big screening for charity.
You want to know the big project that I have underway that I'm trying to have done for the film release night is I'm currently building a gauntlet right now.
You want to collect the stones?
Well, the stones is the easy part. That's just like LEDs and some resin. Right?
Yeah.
Am I right? LEDs? LEDs?
Radio Shack, you're done.
Bits to atoms, that shit.
No, but I've been taking some metalworking classes to try to actually form one, like actually build one from scratch.
All right. Well, you have a year to go. They're still filming right now. That's a big movie coming out. Now, Jeremy, a couple weeks ago, we did a Next Generation update. You were watching it with your son, and we put it out there to people, and they responded. They want to hear about what your view through of Star Trek Next Generation.
I haven't watched a single episode because we've been on vacation.
Oh, you didn't watch any while you were traveling?
Not one.
Okay.
But
there is no update.
You didn't think you were on vacation. You're like, I could go for little tales from Risa. No.
Is that an episode title? No. We went to Disneyland, though. I can give you a Star Wars update.
Oh, yeah.
My God. Tomorrowland is no longer Tomorrowland. It's Star Wars Land.
Do they open it?
No. Star Wars Land isn't open officially till 2019 now. Mm-hmm. But Tomorrowland is just completely overrun with the season of the Force. So everything in there is Star Wars. Everywhere. It's like every shop, all you can buy is Star Wars stuff. Space Mountain is Hyperspace Mountain.
I thought Season 4 concluded with the winter season. We're now in February?
That's what I would have thought.
End of February?
No, they're making too much money.
That bothers me about the Space Mountain thing. I mean, Tomorrowland, I feel like has had... I have some nostalgia for it, but it's not the same as Space Mountain.
No, I'm with you on that. No, I mean, actually, I'm kind of glad to have seen what this version of Space Mountain is, but bring back Space Mountain because it's one of the all-time great roller coaster experiences.
Oh, we're starting a thing on this podcast. Bring back Space Mountain.
Please.
I don't think Space Mountain's going away. And the Hyperspace Mountain is just seasonal. Yeah. And it's a really cool effect. Like they do projection effects so you feel like you're living through some of the scenes. It's not completely the roller coaster in the dark that Space Mountain had been built out to be. They're in Disney World, they did not have Hyperspace Mountain. It was just original classic Space Mountain. In Disneyland Space Mountain, the thing I like most, though, is that when you're waiting in line, the spaceship that they have is much cooler. That looks a little like the Tantive.
Okay.
Although that in the hangar.
Yep, I love it.
Yeah, that's a really great ride.
Yep, I like my Tomorrowland classic.
Did you do any new rides while you were in Disneyland or California Adventure?
The big thing actually is the Frozen show.
It's a show.
Yeah, it's replaced Aladdin. So on that big Broadway style stage that holds 1,000 people,
Okay.
they've replaced Aladdin with Frozen, and it was like Broadway caliber. It's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, it was like really like worth the price of admission. You would have paid that much to see this show.
It's like an hour long. It recreates the entire movie.
So
but
much
musical
spectacle,
form.
like really cool Imagineering stuff, like projected things in the middle of the stage. You don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
Costume changes right before your eyes, moving stages, hydraulics.
Oh, wow.
It was really cool.
Wow, they had a similar thing with Finding Nemo as a musical in Disney World, and like I completely agree. Broadway caliber. It would have been worth paying $40 to see that, but then it's only an hour of your day, and they run it like 3 times a day, so it's like for those performers a lot of work. Speaking of commentaries, which Mr. Science Theater robot or character would you be?
I'm a big fan of Crow. He's pretty snarky, but Tom's a better singer.
Singing is what you're looking for?
I don't know. He's talented.
I wanted to be the mad scientist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, which one?
I was driving the plot. Who's playing the mad scientist this time? Are there multiples?
Is it Patton Oswalt?
Maybe you're right.
really?
Yeah.
I think so. Well, the big news for MST3K fans is they have now announced a release date. It's going to be a Netflix show. So this is the same version of Mr. Science Theater that was launched, crowdfunded on Kickstarter. And shortly after they were successfully crowdfunded, I believe they partnered with Netflix and got to get a distribution deal. Is that a weird binge watching MST3K? Is it?
Oh man, I can't imagine binge watching that.
No, I think binge watching a bad call for that show. But you're a backer, Jeremy.
I am.
Do you feel like this is a strange one for you in the sense, like, you know, how much money they raised? Like a few $1 million, right?
Yeah, they did very well.
And now basically Netflix took advantage of that. Like, oh, somebody else is paying the cost to produce the show, and we just distribute it. Is that a little bit weird for you?
They raised 5.7, right? My God, 5.7 million. That does seem.
You don't get a free Netflix subscription with this.
No, you don't. And that was like I think I gave $100 to this campaign because I really believed in it. And then of course right away they were picked up by Netflix, and I kind of felt like, well, I guess I didn't have to give that money after all because I have a Netflix subscription. So there is some mixed feelings about that. On the other hand, yeah, I feel good about backing these guys. I've liked Riff Tracks for almost 10 years now, but
it's not the same thing.
It's not. Yeah, it's Joel, and it's not the same name, and they don't have the same sets and characters and video production. So it's I'll be interested to see what they do, how they pull it off. Hopefully, the Netflix partnership is just gonna amp it up.
Yeah, the way I would look at it is, well, here's a question: do backers get access to the show if they are not Netflix subscribers?
Oh, they have to.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? Because it is a Netflix exclusive. How would that be distributed?
I mean, but the reward. I mean, I just can't imagine if you backed it at the level that you got access to it. And
if you are not a Netflix subscriber, like how would they get you a copy of the show? Do they have their own streaming service? Is it a download? Like that opens up to piracy and distribution.
Yeah, no, they partnered with a digital distribution.
Okay,
service.
So there will be an avenue.
Oh, it does say in the backer update, if your rewards include the nude episodes or the live stream screening, you'll get them by April 14th when it premieres on Netflix.
Okay.
So it's not an exclusive.
So at that point, I think the Netflix partnership only, just like you said, amplifies the production quality and how much money like each the actors got paid, and they were able to bring in people like Felicia Day and Patton Oswalt to participate.
If you're Netflix now, though, who's been just making it rain on every show ever heard of, do you now go, hey, why don't you kickstart this? If you get to X millions of dollars, we'll pick you up.
I don't think
because it takes the risk out of it for you.
No, because I think Netflix trusts its own algorithms more than it would the market research that you would get from Kickstarter. Like the Kickstarter is really good at showing that there is a small, passionate audience, but it's not necessarily indicative of the wider Netflix audience. And Netflix really wants to locate those, like find things that fill the holes in their lineup. that they don't have.
And this was perfect for Kickstarter too. I couldn't imagine House of Cards having a successful Kickstarter.
Yeah.
People like Kevin Spacey, but
I don't know. In today's current climate, people be like, yeah.
It's the
I'm ready
revival
for that.
aspect, and the people have roots in internet communities. So I think it's a one-off. I could not see a Kickstarter crowdfunded pilot program for Netflix shows. I think that's still gone through traditional channels, and I kind of like that. I like that there's surprises. Like the coolest thing about Netflix shows, honestly, is if you follow Hollywood news, you can find out what deals are being made. But more often than not, a show will just, the week it's going live, drop. Like that's when their big marketing push will happen, and you'll find out like, oh my God, this Lemony Snicket thing is happening. I didn't realize, and now you have like 10 hours of really great television to watch that you can download.
Oh, I cut you off. I got
that was so rude.
Rude.
I got trigger happy.
Kishore's on audio this week, by the way.
I got way trigger happy there.
Speaking of shows, great shows on television. Did either of you see the premiere of the FX show Legion?
No, I did not. Though I'm really excited about this show.
Yeah, so it's a show run and written and directed by Noah Crawley, who did the Fargo TV series, also for FX. And it's with mutants, because Fox owns the rights to do anything to do with mutants, but it's not the X-Men, and it's not set in the canonical Fox movie series X-Men universe. It is its
so it's
own
not
thing.
in the same universe.
It's not. It's a parallel universe with mutants, and the first episode is very stylized. It's a long episode, 2-hour pilot. Real slow burn, but once it gets running, it is fantastic.
Slow burn and mutants
Initially.
tend not to go together as a.
I know. Yeah, it's not big on showy powers. It's more about the characters and the psychological aspects. Like the premise is the character Legion. He's a telekinetic mutant, and he starts off in a mental ward, not believing that his own powers are real or not, and and thinking that his whole life his powers are just a delusion. But it's more style than that straightforward plot, and the style and the writing really makes up for just the standard outcast story. Speaking of Fox and movies, this is a really good sign. Reviews of Logan, the upcoming X-Men movie, are already out, and the movie doesn't come out for another week and a half.
Wait, should I hear the reviews? Or am I going to Joey through this?
Well, I think you can hear. I mean, just the fact that the reviews, that the studio let all the reviewers release their reviews more than
that's
2
usually a
weeks
good sign.
That's a good
ahead of the movie's release, it's a fantastic sign because they want to build word of mouth. People are saying that this is not only the best X-Men film and Wolverine film ever made.
What?
It may be the first superhero film that's worthy of a Best Picture of the Year contender.
What?
Yeah, easily, as some reviewers say. And these aren't just like the bloggers and the fanboys. Some reviewers say best film of 2017
Is this
already.
just an overreaction to the love that Deadpool's gotten? Like,
It feels like, and I know it's easy to make that comparison because a lot of people think that Logan happened because of the financial success of Deadpool, and the Deadpool rated R, one of the first rated R X-Men, the only rated R X-Men movies, and made a ton of money. But I think they appeal to different audiences. Yeah, Wolverine is more better known, but Deadpool I think appeals to maybe a younger sensibility, a more juvenile sense of humor, and from everything
we
we've
get old
seen,
Logan here, which is a different kind of story.
Yeah.
Is Logan rated R?
Logan is rated R, but it's not rated R for the same reason Deadpool is rated R. It's not because of
Butt crack jokes, basically.
Yes, exactly. But I think it's rated R because of it actually is violent and gritty, and a lot of people have compared it to The Last of Us, and also The Road. So imagine The Last of Us, but with Wolverine.
So we've just seen a couple trailers. Anything you're hoping for out of this film?
I remain unconvinced.
I'm also unconvinced.
I'm super skeptical.
Yeah, mostly because I saw X-Men Apocalypse last year is why I'm so skeptical.
Because I've seen all the Wolverine films, and
Wolverine was okay.
No, not for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that had moments. I don't know. I think Patrick Stewart says adieu here. I'm betting Xavier bites the dust.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical of this whole X-23 like storyline to begin with, which is just a ridiculous storyline.
I love the storyline, but I'm skeptical of the actress. I don't know. She seems too angsty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
we'll see.
That's appropriate.
Yeah, but it seems like all she makes is like this the like I don't know. We'll see. The movie comes out next week. I'm excited to see it, but I reserve the right to be skeptical.
On the comic book front, how do you feel about this Captain America comic book news that surfaced about in the upcoming issue? He's a double agent for Hydra.
Wait, that was last year.
That came out last year.
Why was that? It was just on my news feed.
I don't know.
Do you have the 2015 newsfeed?
Yeah.
It could have been the Sudafed.
The news that Jeremy is referring to is that Captain America revealed himself to be an agent of Hydra the whole time.
The whole time. And they said, oh my goodness, his entire history was proved to be just a sham. And then the double twist is that he was mind wiped.
Yeah.
He was just made to believe that he was a Hydra agent the whole time.
They wanted us to go, oh my God. And what we did was, oh my God, they're going to reverse this in 3 issues.
Yeah, let's wait till how long until they reverse this? 3, 2, yeah, it was not all that shocking. And maybe not so shocking is also another piece of entertainment that's getting really good early reviews, Horizon Zero Dawn. This is
I've never even
PS4
heard
game.
of this.
It's a post-apocalyptic game. I forget who the developer is, but the idea is that
isn't it? Oh no, it's not Bethesda.
No. It's
the guys who did Fallout. No. Who is it? Go ahead.
Okay. So you play
Killzone.
Is it Killzone?
Yes,
developers.
Killzone.
It says it's developed by Guerrilla Games.
No, I don't think it's Killzone either. Yeah. You are this heroine who is in a post-apocalyptic world and is overrun by robots, and so you have this in the open terrain that's a mix of lush greenery combined with robot dinosaurs that inhabit the earth, and you have a bow and other devices at your disposal. I haven't played it yet. I've read a few of the reviews, and I previously was not excited for this game. It wasn't on my radar, and now I'm super excited for this game. It's getting unanimous praise.
Yeah, Guerrilla did Killzone.
They did.
Okay. So there are FPS guys who've gone to this open world exploring third-person game. It looks amazing. I mean, it looks really good.
Dan Stapleton, reviews editor at IGN, a friend of ours, said that the game looks fantastic on a 4K HDR TV if you have a PS4 Pro. Huh. I do have a PS4 Pro. I don't have a 4K HDR TV. I'm like, this is the kind of content that would compel me to upgrade the TV to see the game, because it's not an experience I could get on my computer.
Right.
Even playing at 4K, not HDR. Yeah. So I'm jazzed for this game, and I believe it comes out on February 28th.
Are you gonna play it?
That's the thing. I don't know if I want to wait and play it first time through with a 4K HDR TV, or even just in 4K.
I don't know.
Or just play it through in 1080 and then play it again. I don't have time to play it twice.
The problem is Zelda comes out a few days later.
That's true. And they're both open world archery games. Right? Okay. I think that might. One last bit of pulp culture news.
This one was very sad for me because a couple weeks ago, Guillermo del Toro put out a poll on Twitter, and he's like, "Hey, what do you guys think about doing Hellboy 3? Obviously, it blows up. Everyone wants to see Hellboy 3." And
he made a promise. He said, if this poll gets a suitable amount of responses, I will bring all the stakeholders together, the actors, whoever owns the rights, and we will seriously have a serious conversation about making this film.
Yeah, and he said no promises. Well, was it last night? I think he tweeted out that meeting happened and there is not going to be a Hellboy 3. Oh. And somewhere Adam Savage let out a tear, I think.
Yeah. We talked this morning on Still Entitled about it, and he is a little sad. But like we said, it's worth watching the only two Hellboys to appreciate the fact that we did get these fantastical films that frankly, Hollywood is not making today.
I just realized I made a mistake on the music. I forgot to load in the technology music, so we're gonna have to go old school.
Technology.
We do have a bunch of tech news to go through, and we're going to go back to old school. We're going to talk about some smartphones. Mobile World Congress is coming up, and there are two phones that will not be shown at Mobile World Congress. That will probably be two of the best-selling phones of this year, the Galaxy S8 and the iPhone 8. And both phones, Galaxy S8, there's supposed to be some event in March for it. Both phones have leaks. Information has come out. Now, the LG G6 will be at Mobile World Congress, and there's information about that phone already. The theme this year seems to be keeping the phones around the same size, but shrinking the bezel down.
As you called it, the forehead and the chin.
The chin and foreheads of the phones are really going away now. And there are images of the Galaxy S8 turned on, not just the front and the back of the phone. And the idea is that this is the first Samsung Galaxy phone without a dedicated home button. He's going to use software buttons. Now, if you look at the photo, it looks like a Galaxy S8 Edge, actually, because the sides are tapered. It still has a forehead, and it still has a little bit of a chin, but it's really, the bezels are pushed pretty close to the edge. And like I said before, no dedicated physical buttons, which is new for a Samsung phone. It's going to be software buttons.
I like
more
having
screen real estate.
I like having a little bit of bezel on the edges. The chin and the forehead don't bother me as much, or at least the forehead definitely doesn't bother me.
Yeah, because you need that for front-facing camera. You need it for speakers when you're actually using it as a phone. They can't just hide that at the top of the phone. And then, I guess for Samsung, because they have the edge design, then you can swipe left and right from the beveled edges for some functionality. The other thing that seems to be a trend is the changing of the aspect ratio of the phones. As they push the screens closer to the edge of the bezels, we're not just looking at 16:9 anymore. There are these awkward, like 1.8 by 1, or I forget the exact dimensions, but a whole different aspect ratios, in which there's no reason that we couldn't have that. I think 16:9, it makes sense for when you have content that's viewed landscape that was made for TVs and computer screens, but there's no reason LCD or OLED makers can't cut their screens to really be any aspect ratio, as we've learned from the iPhone 5S more specifically. Speaking of the iPhone, iPhone 8 is still, we anticipate, 6 months out or so. But we're having there are a ton of rumors. So there's this page on Mac Rumors.
I just want to go out and say, like, this is worse than the punditry already talking about a 2020 election in the U.S. that we are getting. I feel like there's going to be a site that's like iPhone 9 rumors out today. This is way early. No?
It's shocking to me just how many rumors there are this early from what these sites call to be reputable sources, and they're just it's dramatically different. Like, they're anticipating an OLED display, not just expected things like faster processor, like things that we know anticipate will come every year, but a whole revamped Touch ID and screen section, home button. And it'll be a digital home button, which was rumored last year. I think New York Times had a story about it where they said a source that they said that this year's iPhone would do away with the home button. So according to Mac Rumors, there will be multiple SKUs of the iPhone in 2018 or 2017. And there will be a premium iPhone that will have the same physical dimensions as the current non-plus iPhone, so the 4.7-inch iPhone, but within that chassis to have a 5.8-inch display. So the phone that you have, Jeremy, but with, instead of a 4.7-inch screen, a 5.8-inch screen in that chassis.
I approve.
With a resolution, an OLED display with a resolution of 2800 by 1242. That's awfully specific.
That is really specific. Does that mean it's going to be edge to edge? I mean, where are they getting that room?
That's what they're saying. Basically, edge to edge, with the bottom area of that OLED screen being a function area, programmable function area, not unlike the touch strip, that also has a Touch ID button.
Wait, how does an iPhone go edge to edge? Isn't
You
the
still
speaker?
need the speaker. You
See
still
the,
need.
see the image?
Oh, the screen goes around the speaker.
Well, this is a concept.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing
I don't like
mean,
that.
I mean, there's so many things. This is all according to analysts and sources, quote unquote. The thing that throws me off is the fact that they said this fancy 5.8-inch OLED with the home button done away, function area version of the iPhone would be like a premium iPhone priced at $1,000.
What?
They would segment it as a iPhone Pro almost.
What? That's more expensive than the original iPhone.
I know.
The one that they dropped by $200 like 2 months later.
I know. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I
They
like
would
how the choice is now
target-
becoming: would you like a MacBook or a phone?
Right.
Well,
Right.
for a lot of people, you're right. That might be a phone.
Well, and we're talking about $1,000 if you're going to pay up front and not with any upgrade plan. And so maybe you add, like, that's how they get you. Apple is almost like a carrier in that sense, that you don't realize how much you're paying them even if you're on an upgrade plan. No one needs new phones every year or even every 2 years. But so many consumers are locked in that mentality that they're going to buy basically, if you look at the actual MSRP of an unlocked off-contract phone, it's like $700, $800. They're buying these every other year. Insane.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, it used to mean more. Like every year, there used to be really, really great upgrades that you would look forward to.
Well, that's because it still needs to catch up to a point where, like, not a point of diminishing returns, as we've talked about.
Right, exactly.
And we felt that performance-wise and functionality-wise, the services and the new features haven't kept up. Like, what could you put in the phone that would change your day-to-day use?
No, I'm with you. But people use these devices more than any other device in their life now. That's way more than we used to use desktops.
But there's no other device that you use every day that you change every 2 years at this price point.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're talking about your TV, your car.
Yeah, but you upgrade your PC maybe once every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably use cell phones a lot more than that. I don't know. It seems like people are weighing that out. Like, this is the device I live on. I might as well make it the best possible.
And you can't equate upgrading a PC with upgrading a phone. With upgrading a PC, you can stagger your upgrades.
That's right.
There's an upgrade path. Here, the staggering it's a trade-in program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're incrementally, you're still paying the couple $100 a year or every 2 years to upgrade and get rid of your old phone, to lease the phone, essentially. You're on a leasing plan.
I'm just offering you the justification.
I know. And it's one of the reasons that Apple has so much money, and they have sold hundreds of millions of phones.
I think if they go for a soft home button, Touch
Yeah.
ID has to go away. I don't see how they incorporate that technology into the screen.
But Touch ID has become an essential part of their
I know.
business.
I think it's going to switch to the Retina detection. They'll probably switch to some sort of optical.
Well, Apple did just buy a company, imaging company that specializes in face detection, and that's an area where you're talking about just all you need is computing power and improved optics and camera sensors. As long as I can't get away with putting a photo of someone in front of a screen, in front of the camera, and having it unlock a phone,
Yeah.
then that's the minimum barrier to entry for that. But Touch ID was never supposed to replace your two-factor authentication. It was supposed to be a convenience factor.
I think it would play into their narrative, too, of privacy first, because fingerprints, you can't be compelled to use your fingerprint in a court of law to unlock a phone, whereas you can't be compelled to use your password. I'll bet you can't be compelled to show your retina either.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Why fingerprint and not your retina?
Oh, I'm not sure about the retina part.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps you can. But I think because fingerprints are a matter of, it's a matter of record. Maybe that's how they feel that they can compel you to do that.
While retina it's simply a matter of technology. Fingerprints are only a matter of record because in the past it's been easy to have that sampled and copied.
Can I ask you a serious tangent about that question that you just brought up about fingerprints being? So there was a story in the Verge a couple weeks ago that really set me off about this scientist from NASA's JPL that got detained at the border. He's a U.S. citizen. He got detained coming back from a science conference in Brazil, and he had a NASA-owned phone which had classified materials on it, not high-level security stuff, but and they compelled him to unlock the phone against his protests because it was a fingerprint unlocked situation. They could compel him to do so.
Right.
Whereas the password, I guess, though, there's weird rules at the border where the border is not necessarily the same as the country. But does that give you does that idea that they can compel you to give your fingerprint but not your password give you any pause when you're traveling internationally right now? Like if both Norm and I are going on a trip next month, we're going abroad. If we come back, if we have a password on our phone, it'll be harder for them to compel us.
That's right.
To gain access to it. Would that make you reconsider your security on your phone?
It should, but like I said, the convenience that Touch ID, that balance of convenience and sense of security, is so compelling that I don't think people actually will change to a numerical password. If Apple made it really easy for you to swap or disable Touch ID and default to your numerical password, then yes. But at this point, you have to switch around.
This story really freaked me out, and I went onto the EFF site to see what they recommend doing, and they recommend doing a remote backup and then wiping while you're in line.
What?
Wiping your phone while you're in line at customs.
If you see that someone
and then as soon as you get to the other side, reinstall it, because right now, and this has been going on since the Obama administration, they're scanning your contacts and your social media accounts when you open your phone. And I understand there's a lot of people that's very uncomfortable for.
Wait a minute. At customs, they actually do this?
Yeah.
Like regular people who are just coming to the country, they will ask to see their phone and they will scan their contacts.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, I've heard, I haven't confirmed this, that what they're doing is trying to confirm the contact database against either like known terrorist or anything like that, and they're scanning the contents of your phone looking for stuff like child pornography, like really pernicious stuff. But like it gives like, I read that story and I was like, what? Like all this convenience for unlocking has some weird security and privacy issues when you're traveling across lines.
Well, just to be fair, if you wipe your phone and you go up to the booth and you clearly have just wiped your phone, you're going to raise some red flags there too.
No doubt, but it's that's why I thought that recommendation from EFF was strange. All right, now I gotta. Oh no!
I was ready to give the sound cue. So back to our Apple rumors, and we're still in rumor territory here. The iPad line is supposed to get a refresh soon. Now, in the latest earnings call, people did ask Tim Cook about his confidence in tablets and the iPad line, and he said there were exciting things it's coming soon. And I don't know if he said a couple weeks or like he specified like 4 to 6 weeks or just in the coming months. But the rumor is now that there will be an event in next month that the iPad will be the star of. And
just an iPad event.
Or maybe it would be anchored by the iPad.
Huh.
And we've had the iPad Pro for, a year now?
And people have loved the Pro, but not the price necessarily.
Exactly. People love the Pencil, right? The Apple Pencil. Artists have loved using it. Mm-hmm. So I think with this new iPad line, with the refresh, I think the idea is to bring the features of the Pro down to the smaller form factor, the 9.7-inch form factor, at least with that chassis. That would be the
not the Mini,
the 7.9 form factor. The Mini kind of
is that dead?
It kind of is dead. It was the form factor I liked the most.
What do you mean?
It seemed like the form factor Apple cared about the least once they released the plus size phones, the 5.5-inch phones.
Yeah.
And they've really emphasized the higher margin, higher price one. I mean, the great thing about the Mini was the price point, right? It was like $350.
Right. I think you nailed it with higher margin. I think that's why they're emphasizing.
They want the higher margin, and they want to sell the higher features in the compact package. And if they're going to sell something small, they want to be able to charge more for it. As we know from the MacBook, the thing that replaced the MacBook Air. Like I think the iPad Mini that you're using right now, the 7.9-inch one, is in the category of the iPad Air. It was the lower cost, smaller size, entry level iPad, but they would rather charge you more for for something of the same size with more features. So the big rumor is the new mini version of the iPad Pro will have the quad speakers, the True Tone display, the Apple Pencil support, but have a bigger screen and smaller bezel as well. Seems to be thin bezel. Seems to be the big theme of screens this year. All right, moving on. One last bit of Apple news, and this actually just came out today. Apple announced the name of their spaceship headquarters. Care to guess what it's called? Did I say it earlier?
Oranges? Apples and oranges? No.
Orange Grove? Apple Grove?
The Orchard.
That's nice.
I like that.
That's good.
Yeah. Close. It's going to be called Apple Park, which to me...
Oh, that's cute. That's cute, like Xerox.
Yeah, it evokes old Silicon Valley kind of campuses. Apple Park, they are going to have 12,000 employees move into that facility over the course of 6 months.
When?
Starting in April. Opens.
What?
I know.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? Like I thought it felt like it was years away. Yeah, 175 acres.
I know employees that thought maybe next year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Will open in April, and it will have a new auditorium with 1,000 seats. I believe that's where they're going to do all their press conferences, and it will be named Steve Jobs Theater.
I tell you, that building is magnificent. It makes me want to apply to be a janitor or something. Because that's the one I could get.
Qualifications, PhD or equivalent.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, a $5 billion project to build that. I still like the name Orchard. I think that was a great name, Kishore. All right, moving on to other. People have been spying on the Apple Park with quadcopters, and people, and that's why they had to kind of open it up and for some construction. Other quads are making news. UPS just launched their first test of drone delivery, launching from a UPS truck.
That's awesome.
Have you seen this video?
No.
There's an actual video.
There's a video.
Sounds like spy.
They modified a UPS truck so that the top part of the truck opens up, and then the drone, which looks like a custom quadcopter with a parcel with a UPS box,
I love it.
flies out of it.
Who's flying the drone?
So that's a little unclear whether it's an autonomous drone or whether it was piloted. But they did testing. It was in Florida and a couple days ago, and they released footage on that.
UPS has an insanely high customer satisfaction rate.
They are one of the, if you talk about like the 100 most best companies, people that people love, Apple isn't even like, I think number one's like Walmart or something.
That's weird.
And 2 used to be like Samsung, and Samsung dropped it, but yeah, like 3 or 4 is UPS.
Yeah.
It's just because,
they're above Apple.
Logistics. That's their thing. Well, who brings you the products? Who brings you your iPhone?
Yeah, but like FedEx isn't anywhere near them.
So why do you think it's UPS?
I don't know. I prefer UPS, but that's because I like my delivery guy. I don't know. Everyone can't have that experience. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good question of how this is going to fit into their chain, their delivery chain.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Like, is it that every truck will have one emergency drone, so when you fly up to like that giant Mr. Burns house, you don't have to go up to the gate. You can just fly and drop it off behind the gate. Like, wait, is that the idea? Or?
I'm still waiting for anyone to convince me how drones are going to make this any faster.
Yeah. I get the argument in rural areas or along the coast in places where the road infrastructure, it's much where you have cost efficiencies that way, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Still only has 22-minute flight, so it can't be that rural.
It's true. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Or, maybe they have like drones that can fly for an hour, but still.
They also used drones this past weekend at the NBA All-Star game. Saturday was the slam dunk contest, and last year's winner used this year, I hate these gimmicks, used one of the Intel drones that were, I don't think it was the same drone system that was part of Lady Gaga's halftime show, but it was an Intel branded drone, and it dropped a basketball, and then he picked it up, it bounced, grabbed it, and he dunked and he tried it like 4 or 5 times, and he could not do it.
Yeah, he like missed the dunk a bunch of times.
The timing was terrible. It wasn't even that impressive of a stunt.
So I disagree in the sense that, so it wasn't impressive. You're right. But I will say it could have been. If the drone was flying and dropped the ball and he dunked it without it hitting the ground.
I agree. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Walk off the court.
If the drone of him were running in opposite directions, right, and they're flying toward him, and is Aaron Gordon of the Orlando Magic, and if the drone made a pass, right, but it was like dropping. It was a really, really just lame move.
He did use a hoverboard last year.
Gimmicks.
The hoverboard, the way he used it was great. He had the Orlando Magic mascot on a hoverboard and then doing 360 in position.
Mm-hmm.
So the ball is now rotating. And so he runs up and grabs it while the ball is moving and then does this like really impressive dunk.
Yeah.
That was good use of the hoverboard.
Right. Because that was more about the mascot also, and the hoverboard wasn't super flashy.
No, but this idea that the ball is not stationary before that dunk, that's great. That's what should have happened with the drone. Props to Aaron Gordon, though. I mean, this event really stinks right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty boring, and at least he's trying something.
I'd say just go with old school dunking. I would pay for a drone to drop me off a pair of Snapchat spectacles.
What? You want one of these things?
Maybe by the time they get delivered, it will be delivered by drone. So Snapchat, which is supposed to have its IPO, I believe, soon. There's a lot. I don't know the exact date. Now are allowing people to order their camera glasses, which
are they like $120 or something?
$130. All
right.
And so this is it's like the camera aspect of Google Glass without the superimposed screen, the augmented reality portion of it. And they've been popular. I've seen them. I saw them at the NBA All-Star game in the crowd.
Snapchat's popular.
Snapchat's popular, but I think they broke through with the design of these things.
They do look good and relatively unobtrusive.
Goofy, right? But they look goofy in a hipster way and less so in a nerdy way, which was Google Glass. Google Glass was, I'm a robot, I'm a cyborg, punch me in the face, stuff me in a locker. These Snapchat spectacles are like Warby Parker fun beach shades that have the cameras hidden in the corners.
Not so hidden.
Well, not so hidden, but the glasses are designed to be, they're big, so they overshadow the fact that in the corners of the glasses are these two cameras.
It's definitely not Google Glass like.
Yeah, they're blended in, and I think have you guys seen videos shot with us? They're meant for live streaming, but the video is in a circular window. So they get around the limitation of the wide-angle lens and the relative low quality of the camera system by putting it in a circular frame. And so they crop out all the vignetting and all the chromatic aberration on the edge of the frame.
So the video is rectangular, but there's just black around a circle.
Or white.
Okay.
Yeah. And so putting that frame, I think it's a style, but it works in the format of watching these videos in the Snapchat app.
So I get the hype around it, like, and the design and style. But how functional do you think these are?
Yeah, what do you mean they're meant for live streaming? Are they Wi-Fi equipped?
No, it's Bluetooth to your phone.
Yeah, maybe they're not meant for live streaming. Yeah, I guess you record 10-second videos or photos and then you send them to your Snapchat account. I was conflating with Instagram.
But yeah, I'm curious, like, do we know what kind of battery life these things get and all those kinds of things?
Guess what, Kishore? I'll be testing it.
Oh, really?
I've placed an order.
What color?
Black.
Oh, come on, Norm. Live a little.
What are the 3 colors? It's like
teal and coral.
Coral, like a salmon color.
Coral really brings out your eyes, Norm.
I don't think. I'm looking at these photos of the models wearing them. I'm not going to wear coral lipstick to go with to match the spectacles. They will be a spectacle.
Huh.
I mean, the funny part is I've had a few friends that actually went up to the vending machines.
Oh, really?
Which is the initial way that these
robots?
were delivered, is like they have these vending machines and there were like hours of lines to get spectacles out of these machines.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Jeremy, you're watching the videos.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I realized is, watching anyone who does like any of the marketing videos, I am not cool enough. I do not do any activities cool enough to warrant having these videos record.
Well, Norm, do you even use Snapchat?
I downloaded the app and installed an account. Yeah. I guess I had to for the sake of these spectacles.
Well, good, man. I'm glad you're always testing.
Yeah. Another new product coming out, maybe this is more relevant to people listening out there, new CPUs, and surprisingly, high-performing CPUs from AMD. These are AMD's Ryzen CPUs, 8-core CPUs that, according to early preview benchmarks from people like Gordon Ma-Ung at PC World, outperform Intel's 8-core Core i7s. Now, the big difference is price. These, for example, the Ryzen 7 1700X, $400, and it's faster than Intel's Core i7 6900K, which is priced at $1,100. So almost a third, a little over a third of the price, but you're getting equal performance, which is pretty insane. And that's not even the fastest one. The high-end CPU, $500 from AMD, the Ryzen 7 series, which is 1700, 1700X, and 1800X. They boost up to 4 gigahertz, but it's really about how many cores, and these all double up their threads. So 8 cores, 16 threads, 95-watt CPUs.
Has it been a while since AMD has outdone Intel?
I think so. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like for a while I used to go back and forth, and there was always like a rivalry of which chip you were going to install in your PC.
But Intel has kind of stagnated a little bit. I mean, they stopped their TikTok cycle, and even their next generation chips are going to use the same 14 nanometer process. Like, they're not doing a process reduction because it's too expensive or the yields aren't good enough. So maybe they're reaching a little limit of Moore's law. I'm not exactly sure what in the Ryzen chips allow it to outperform in Cinebench benchmarks or Handbrake benchmarks.
Because it's also 14 nanometer?
Let me see I don't know exactly what process it's based on. I want to say yes. But if you're going to build a new PC, it really means like you have to build, like, when you're building PC, the biggest thing isn't the CPU you're choosing, but almost what chipset you're buying. And
the motherboard?
And the motherboard. Because the chipset tells you the how far you can upgrade. And if you're gonna be adopt a new chipset that supports like faster memory and latest generation CPU, then you have to hope that the company making those CPUs aren't gonna switch to a different socket or make it incompatible. 1 or 2 generations later. There have been chipsets on Intel that, like, some sweet spots have lasted very long in the mid range. On the high end, the things have turned over quicker. So it's a new question for AMD. If you're gonna buy these, if you're gonna spend $400 on a CPU now and get great, 16 thread performance, is that going to be the platform you're going to be on and for the next 3-4 years when you want to upgrade to the next generation chip and hopefully still use that same motherboard?
Dude used to work for Maximum PC.
Used to build PC. We actually did some fun PC testing this week, but can't talk too much about it. Had to do with thermal cameras. What's our next story here? Oh, did you guys see these tiny arcade cabinets? So Toy Fair. I know it's a little bit outside of the tech news. So Toy Fair was last weekend as well. I've always wanted to go. It was in New York.
Is it always there?
Yeah, it's at the Javits Center in New York. I've wanted to go too. And it's become this spectacle where now, like, just people go to it. Like, it's an insider, professional industry meeting. But so many people are just enamored with what gets put on display.
Yeah.
We should go.
Yeah.
I would love to go. I mean, they have like full-size BB-8s rolling around. It's a lot of like action figure stuff, but also model kits. Lego stuff gets announced there. A lot of it's actually closed off in private areas. So you can't like get into the Lego booth It's all walled off. It's almost like E3 in that sense, and without private meetings. And then they show you, here's our newest toy sets coming up next year. Here's our display stands. But something that was shown off were these tiny arcade cabinets, retro games, made by a company called, I believe, Super Impulse. They make Rubik's Cubes. And do you see the pictures of this?
How tiny are we talking?
As tiny as you could make it.
Hand size, like smaller than your can of Coke over there.
What? How are you supposed to play that?
They're a novelty. They're desk trinkets.
The games are simple. There's like Pac-Man, Galaxy, and
Space Invaders.
But it's 4 games.
Yeah.
And they're all games that just require one button or no button.
Yes. Right.
And a joystick.
Looking at these cabs, I can't help but wonder, I saw the story in Gizmodo, if these aren't rebranded Tiny Circuits.
That's what I thought. They
look
look like
exactly like the Tiny Circuits Arduinos, the Stackable Arduino games. Because there was a Kickstarter for that tiny arcade, and they sent us a prototype, a 3D printed prototype.
Yeah.
And that 3D printed prototype, I want to say is exactly what they have here.
Yeah, I want to open what it's up.
Yeah. There wasn't any price or availability, but they are supposed to be out later this year. And I'd love to, like you said, get one, break it open. If you want to build your own tiny arcade cabinet, tinycircuits.com. They're the people who make the Tiny Duino. They sell a kit a tiny arcade kit that you can load up your own games on. Not like MAME ROMs, but things like Space Invaders. It's like $60, and you can get like acrylic clear case or a black case and put decals on there, and they're really neat.
I'd rather play video games in my car than in the palm of my hand.
What about video games with your car?
You guys are good this week.
What do you mean with my car?
With your car, like using the
Carmageddon in my car?
Well, that would be too real. But what about maybe Doom? There is a modder who hacked his Porsche software, his dash software, to run Doom.
All right, Norm, go ahead, finish.
And then tied the controls to Doom to the controls of his car. Okay, so you have to drive to play Doom.
Are you telling me you fell for this?
Is this true, or is it totally a hoax?
Norman, where's your radar, man? This is a hoax.
It read like a hoax.
But I also believe it. Did you watch the video?
No, I didn't watch the video.
Okay, that's why you fell for it.
Okay.
Because all he does, first of all, he opens his glove compartment,
okay,
and he says you can do this in any modern car.
Yeah.
Because they've all standardized, and you put a file on a USB stick. He makes it sound like very real.
Yeah.
You put a file on the USB stick that just has the VIN number of the car. You insert that in the USB port, and then your car will boot up in diagnostic mode, which happens to be like Windows. And then if you insert the game Doom into the CD player,
yes,
it will
the
load
CD player.
Yeah. No further hacking is required.
Okay.
Because now the controls of your car, the accelerator.
No, wait. No further hacking. Is that what he said?
That's it. So
no
now
way.
The gas pedal is forward and back in the game.
Oh my god.
Steering is steering. Honking is of course
These weren't fancy config files that mapped controls.
No, it comes pre-mapped.
Oh.
Yeah, any car, a modern car.
Okay, any car, but he did it with the Porsche.
Yeah, and he encouraged people who don't have a Porsche 911 to show video of their car doing it to show that it works in other cars.
I wonder if there are any response videos.
So, but it's like he did a really good job at it because the video is clearly, in one part, it's clearly composited onto his screen. At least if you have any experience video editing, you see it. But when he actually demonstrates it and he drives around, it's really well,
like it's
synchronized.
Yeah,
really well,
and that's convincing.
Yeah,
like seeing the turning left and
I know he's gonna fool a lot of people.
He
even
already
watching the
has.
Video. Yeah,
he's fooled people in this room. Their blogs, Gizmodo. I mean,
I'm watching the video of it booting up to a Windows screen as he's sticking in CD.
This is great fake news. This is the kind of fake news.
Now, if you watch this guy's channel, he also has a video about playing Doom with your toaster
oven. That's right.
Because all modern toasters have switched to a new heating element that has to be software controlled. And so if you open up your toaster, he opens his toaster and there's a USB jack inside. He says all toasters have this. And he plugs the USB jack into Windows, and then he uses the depressor to lower this toast into the filament. As you can map that to any key on your keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
So he maps it to play Doom with 4 toasters.
Yeah.
Now I actually want you to do this, Jeremy.
I know.
I feel like you have the
Challenge
capabilities
accepted.
to be
so
like,
funny.
I could add this in.
Were you thinking in your head, how could you actually make this happen?
You could like hack a toaster to make that work, but you'd have to put all the sensors in there. But you could actually make it into be a keyboard function. That would be hilarious.
Plausible.
Yeah.
Plausible.
I thought this guy's a genius.
It clearly has fooled a lot of people. I love the retractions people are posting. Article updated to clarify.
Oh, really?
This is a comedy video.
Good.
Not a real video.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, something that, okay, speaking of old games and doing interesting with old games, I don't think this is a fake story. Have you seen this? Sorry.
Now you're not so sure.
No,
we just
everything
don't know.
needs serious fact checking. This is from the Pinch of Intelligence blog. Apparently, modder use the camera that came with the Game Boy camera, which takes low resolution images, grayscale 256 by 224 pixels, and there are 4 shades of gray. Took those images and then ran them through a neural network to see if he could improve them, add color interpolation, and then said he was able to get realistic looking photo images from here.
Wait, somebody used a Game Boy camera and, did the enhance feature
Basically, yep.
and got real looking pictures out of it?
Better looking images. The differences are pretty striking, actually.
Oh, I'm looking at them now. They are pretty impressive. Like, what is this neural network it connected to?
So I think it was for faces, essentially. It was looking at skin tones and skin textures and details on the faces and filling in those blends.
Is it just the first few shots are all of famous people. So it's not just filling in imagery of people that there's lots of images of, right?
No, and actually, if you scroll down, it shows you the results and how running multiple passes.
Yeah, they definitely don't come out looking great, but much better than what you started with.
Does everyone have the same skin tone?
No. And not at the same angles and...
Well, the thing he was able to compare, because his input images were of real photos. And so he had a real color photo to compare his results with. And you can tell with like the results that he generated, he had like, you can make out color and there's like some texture, color changes and gradients in the face, but there's still like data that's clearly missing that you're not going to get at that resolution. But it's pretty good.
I'm wondering how he's able to guess the colors.
Yeah.
With this, since there's it's not very little color information at all.
That's the hard part.
Huh.
Lipstick color. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a little fishy.
It's a technical post. Yeah. Oh yeah. Someone tried it and sent in their own image also with their Game Boy camera. I don't have a Game Boy camera. We can't test this. Does the Switch have a camera?
Oh, that's a good question.
HD haptics. That's all we care about.
Yep.
HD haptics. Joy-Cons.
Milk those cows.
You know those Joy-Cons have a satisfying click when you detach them?
No, I did. How do you know that?
It was from one of the leaked videos. It's videos of one of the leaked.
Wow.
It's good to know that I can take the podcast off in a couple weeks.
You didn't get one?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not ordering one either. I'm just not overwhelmingly impressed. First of all, I'm not as enamored with the Nintendo lineup of games. Like, I don't need to play Mario Kart. I don't need to play Zelda. And without those, there just isn't anything. There isn't a lineup there.
Why don't you need to play Zelda, Kishore?
Zelda I do like, but I don't. I'm not.
How many
I'm
Zelda
waiting
games
to
have you
hear-
played?
3.
Like to completion?
Yeah.
And you don't want to play Breath of the Wild?
No, I want to see what the reviews are.
They're gonna be good. Yep.
That's a lack of critique that I expect more from somebody that used to be an editor at PC Gamer.
Hey, I'm just saying, it looks like it's gonna be good.
All right.
I'll withhold my actual review till I play it.
All right. Use this moment to thank our sponsor for this week's episode, and that sponsor is Crizal. Crizal no glare lenses. Now, I expect lenses of my eye glasses not only to help me see better, but to stay clean and clear. But if you ever have worn only ordinary lenses, then you know that there are many annoyances that can bring into your life, like fingerprints, smudges, scratches, and glare from all kinds of artificial light. Thankfully, Crizal no glare lenses are life tested to protect against all of these things, so they stay clean and clear. That means you don't have to worry about getting your lenses dirty when you take them on and off, or getting scratched when you clean them on your shirt. Crizal no glare lenses make it safer for you to drive at night by reducing any reflection caused by the headlights of oncoming traffic. Look better, feel better, and more importantly, be prepared for whatever comes your way with clear vision. Go to Crizal.com, Crizal.com to learn more and start living life in the clear. And thank them for sponsoring this week's episode of This Is Only a Test.
Now it's time for a moment of science. Breaking news. We don't always get to do breaking news here, but we are no longer alone in the universe.
Come on.
By we, I mean the Earth, and that there's an additional set of planets that we found.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the we I was referring to. What we were you referring to?
Life. We knew there were other planets.
When we're recording this, as we were recording this, NASA had their press conference announcing a new discovery of planets in the TRAPPIST-1 system, which is actually a star that's located in the Aquarius constellation.
Oh.
It's about 40 light years away. They found 7 Earth-sized planets around this one star. Of those 7, 3 are in what is called the habitable zone, where liquid water could be on the surface. What's different is most of the exoplanets that we've seen have come from the Kepler project, where there's been a transit of that planet across the face of the star. This actually used multiple different telescopes and instruments to try to identify these. So Hubble looked at the 2 that were closest to the sun. There's another instrument that's actually in tail of the Earth that looks at infrared data from stars. And this star is an ultra cool dwarf star, as opposed to our star, which is a yellow dwarf. So like the effective temperature of our sun is around 6,000 Kelvin. This one's only about 2,700 Kelvin. For reference, this room is about 280 Kelvin right now.
So the planets are much closer.
The planets can be much closer because the star is less warm. There's 7 though. There's
Class M?
7.
Class M?
No,
Only the ones in the habitable zone?
No, there's 3 in the habitable zone.
3. Could you imagine that? I mean, could you imagine getting to the point where you're spacefaring at all, and you go to your neighbor planet and there's water and life there? That would be amazing.
So the only challenge about this that they that exists is that because of how close they are to the sun, they're worried that the planets are tidal locked. So that means the sun-facing side of that planet is always facing the sun.
Yeah.
In which case it would make it makes for some extreme different weather patterns on that planet, even if it did have water compared to Earth. So it would be really interesting to look at. They've been able to garner some basic density information. So we know a number of them are rocky. We know the furthest one out probably has ice on it. 40 light years away. That doesn't feel very far. It's really far, by the way. It's super, super far.
Yeah.
Put it out of your mind. But it's not that far. I mean, that's very close in terms of the larger context of what we're doing here. 7 planets. It's pretty amazing.
But now, why is this a discovery? Obviously, it's a new discovery for this solar system. But we've known about other what would be
Exoplanets,
class
But
M
never
planets.
7 Earth-sized planets in the same system.
Okay.
And
Now, is
never around this kind of star.
Is that because of new detection methods, or because we got lucky and found this system?
Well, this is definitely, they were looking at this particular star because it shows up well on infrared. And so they had an infrared telescope trailing the Earth, and it was able to look at the star for 500 hours consecutively, which is a really long time for an instrument to stay pointed at the same location. So it was sort of an outlier in that way.
Was it the kind of thing? How do we see the planets? Is it only when they pass in front of the sun?
No, that's the excuse me. That's the transit method. They're using an IR detection, so they weren't looking for the transit across the face. I don't think in this.
They could actually see the planet itself.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. I'll have to update that next week.
At some point, if life evolves on that planet or had evolved on that planet and they were space faring, how far away were those planets then? Like, if it's a distance between us and Mars,
or were they communicating via telescope before they could even get off the planet?
But you would have to assume that life then evolved equally at the same pace as with both.
Let's assume that.
We're gonna assume life on one, but I'm just saying, like, if Mars is kind of Earth size. Like, we do live in that kind of system.
Yeah, but there's no water on it. Yeah. At least no surface water.
There is water on Mars. There's
ice.
Yeah, and there has been water on Mars. I mean, part of this is a time equation, right?
Right.
So
hot air balloons, Jeremy. That's how they try to send hot air balloons. It's the Star Trek Voyager episode.
Oh no!
With the ship in the sky.
Why is that stuck in my head now? What did you do?
I'm so sorry.
2 other stories this week. So I spent last week in Boston at the AAAS meeting, which is the American Association for the Advancement of Science. It's one of the largest scientific societies in the world. And at their annual meeting, it was a strange one to go to because there was so much conversation on where science fits in the current policy environment. There's lots of scientists that were terrified of what's happening. There are lots that were talking about tangible things that we could do. There was a protest rally that occurred during the conference against the current administration and just sort of
spontaneously.
No, it was organized by the Union of Concerned Scientists, but like 1,000 people went out to a square in Boston to protest on like a random Sunday morning, and and many of them from the conference. It was interesting to be here because this is the first time I've publicly heard this sentiment that it's time for scientists to run for office, which is bizarre.
You've brought that up on the show before.
Yeah, but I've now heard it from people, a couple feet away from me.
Yeah.
And that there's some real hard discussions about what public service for scientists looks like. It used to be, we'll just publish our science, we'll do good. But the one that I found sort of most moving is there was a scientist at Virginia Tech who aided in the discovery of and validation that lead was in the water at Flint. And he talked about how this team at Virginia Tech went in and they proved that the lead was there and that it was being covered up by this government agency. And they showed the malfeasance. And he comes back to his home institution where like so much press, so many accolades. And he goes and sits down and he says, there's no reason that I would ever do this again. Like, none of the structures of science support me going out there and doing that kind of work. Like, the university doesn't reward that kind of behavior. They reward you going out and getting more grants.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and the sort of tension between science and the public good, it was really out on display. I think it's going to be a fascinating year for us to look at what this looks like, because the other side of it is I heard so many people be like, what the fuck are you complaining about? Like, you have middle-class jobs and lifestyles here. You've generally done really well in this world. People respect your profession. People have a lot of trust in the process. Why are you complaining at all? This is an open question that I think is going to come to a head with the big science marches that are scheduled for April. I just think I think I said something last year when there was that march, protest march here during a conference, that we're on top of something big. I'm more convinced than ever, like, there's a pretty big shift happening underfoot in science on that side.
Do you think scientists are generally well suited for political office?
I asked that question of a scientist, a really famous scientist that's running for a Senate seat here in California. And what he said is, like, I'm not well versed in the law like most politicians are. He doesn't have a legal degree, but he's like, I am a critical thinker. I asked hard questions. I look for evidence, And he sees a place for that in modern politics, where his assumption is that there is a dearth of that going behind the scenes.
I would totally agree with that. I just wonder. There's also just the game of politics, and
some people
so
are
to
so
pretend
better
that
suited.
science isn't politics behind the scene.
Well, that's a good point.
Be ignoring what actually happens.
That's a really good point.
I don't know. I something is really tumultuous is about to happen under our feet in the science world, for good or ill. One last study to note is that there was a research study that looked at how well we're doing in terms of fracking, in terms of like, are we generating a lot of spills? Is it doing well? Over a 10-year period, this group found that there were almost 7,000 spills in just 4 states from fracking. This is information that's largely been suppressed over that period of time, and this is equivalent to about 55 spills per 1,000 wells. That's pretty significant.
That's pretty high.
That is really significant.
Yeah, and these are unreported, or
there's no regulations requiring them to be tracked in the same way. There's a lot of state regulations, but not consistent federal regulations.
Where did the spills occur?
So the 4 states, I'm forgetting which 4 states they were.
I mean,
Colorado, New Mexico, North Dakota, and Pennsylvania. So very different places, but places where there's a high increase in fracking over the last.
Right. But where in the process?
Oh, that's a good question. Unknown. We don't know the nature of the spill. We know very little information about their long-term impacts too.
Okay.
It's pretty terrifying, and that's the first acknowledgement of the scale of what could be happening with fracking in these communities. Oh, I have a really quick one though. We've been talking about some serious stuff. Let's talk about something fun. A few years ago, back in 2012, there was an X Prize announced for the medical tricorder.
Yes. I saw this at CES last year, some of the prototypes.
So we went from 300 teams that really officially engaged in the prize. We're down to 2. So this medical tricorder basically has to be able to conduct 5 different basic tests, like a blood test, blood pressure, these kinds of really relatively simple diagnostic tests without intervention of somebody else. And it has to weigh under 5 pounds.
Okay.
And so they're in this phase now over the next few months where they're going to consumer testing, where they actually go out and hand you a device and see if you can actually use it.
All right.
And use it effectively. So in April, they're going to announce the winner, who will get a $10 million prize.
Nice.
We're close to our medical.
Now, these aren't just wireless, like hand-wavy devices. These are still sensor probes, things you have to...
But they seem to be, adapted to a smartphone type unit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of different, probes and adapters, but the core processing is still being done by something that you and I would have.
And I think a lot of that is UX, a lot of that is interface and how these things are designed so that you can use them simply, or someone can put them, like these devices, in an office or in a hospital and not have to have a doctor do it or a nurse do it.
Yeah, and or at least that you could do it on your own time, and then your actual time spent with the expert is about interpreting results and analyzing results instead of conducting the test.
Seems like it would dovetail well with the the new medical office you mentioned was opening. Right?
Which I have to find like the thousands of dollars that it will take for me to go down there and test that out. But I was very curious about. That is it for this week, and I am slow on this.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
Okay. All right. A couple weeks ago, Valve invited a bunch of journalists up to its headquarters, and this is after Gabe Newell did an AMA in which he confirmed that they were working on some full-length games and answered all sorts of questions about Steam and Valve's investment in VR, and this is kind of an extension of that. So some of those people who participated in the AMA were invited up there along with our friends over at Polygon and PC Gamer. And some interesting stuff came out of that. We didn't exactly talk a lot about it last week. Most notably, Valve has confirmed they are working on 3 full-length VR games. not based on the Team Fortress or Portal IPs.
Okay, so just Half-Life. That's
now,
cool.
It wasn't clear if what he said was that these games weren't just ports of, or that they may be in the same universe. I think I'd be shocked if they weren't in that same universe at all. But it seems like it's way more than what they did with the lab, which is the collection of mini games and experiences, experiments over time. That's great to hear.
I couldn't be happier. I mean, that's akin to Nintendo making a game for their console. It's for their own console.
I'm surprised it's that many.
Yeah,
like 3 is a lot.
Well, we also don't know whether when he says full-length games, if that means these are big AAA development teams sizes working on them, or if like in a very traditional Valve setting, like small projects run by small teams. But still with the depth and complexity of a full-length game. Like it could be very well a puzzle game, right? A full-length game you could call Super Hypercube a full-length game, and but I think Valve wants to push the boundaries of VR. Now the other things there's a really great recaps on a bunch of other websites of with transcripts of what he said, but he talked a lot about how the future of VR is really uncertain, and that everyone can see the potential, but we really don't know where it's going to lead. And he used a couple analogies. He talked about how, for example, with the Nintendo Wii, when he first used the Wiimote and played Wii Tennis, he saw the huge potential in that motion control and thought they would go a ton. That was just the beginning of motion controls, and ended that Nintendo just got it right that first time, and that Wii Sports was kind of like the end all of like the best thing you could do with that system. Same with things that he admits he was wrong with a DS, that if he had really didn't see the benefit of having 2 screens in a mobile console like that he'd rather it made more sense for like a PSP style console, and DS clearly won.
As far as the Wii goes, though, I think that was more of playing to the limitations of the technology at the time. Like I don't think it was accurate enough. People tried to do more, but it just couldn't.
Right.
It needed that kind of I don't know, relaxed restrictions on what you were tracking in order to like Wii Sports worked, but not much else did.
And motion controls after the Wii came out really tried to go mass market and race to the bottom real fast. Hardware companies didn't try to release motion controllers that were more accurate. They tried to release more motion controllers, and more games just took care that simulated what Wii Sports did. And that was it seemed like that was a big fear of him as well. That the race to the bottom, the race to mainstream and lowering costs, is the thing that would inhibit the growth and development of VR. And that in his mind, VR it's going to be a high-end technology and a high-end product for a very long time. Much like PC gaming stayed a niche product and a niche technology that saw benefits in that benefited other uses for PCs, for the office and workspace, but buying expensive video cards, it wasn't a mass market thing. And it's not until now that everyone does have PCs, that we've reached a really nice plateau with performance, that you have games like esports and League of Legends really reaching the mainstream, and in games like Minecraft. So it's a clearly different than the Oculus approach, where Oculus, yes, they're putting a lot of money into making these AAA games, and a lot of software, but they're really trying to be in Best Buys and trying to get into the homes and trying to make VR succeed now, when Valve maybe sees a more slow burn, a slow pace of development to really flesh out the hardware. Because he says, and I think we all agree, we're like the headsets, the consumer headsets we have now, that consumer only meaning that we can buy them in stores, are primitive. And a lot of it's burdened by the piggybacking onto cell phone technology, cell phone screens, and cell phone sensors, and that's the stuff that made these consumer headsets and this generation of VR possible. But really, for VR to hit its stride, the hardware development has to split itself off from the cell phone development.
Do you think that's a hint that at least some of these 3 games will sync up with the next generation of VR headsets?
I think he's got to be that kind of forward-looking. I think when he says he's confident and he knows the other VR, he means Oculus, is confident that They have hardware plans in the works for high density screens that would make the relatively high density screens of current headsets obsolete. That's exciting to me. And that makes
the
me
first comment I still get from everyone who puts on the headset is it's blurry.
And by that it means not that it's out of focus, but that it's low resolution.
Yeah.
Right. And even though it's higher resolution than a 1080p monitor,
right?
It's not 4K, but 4K is the next step. 8K, 6K. But even when I frame it in that 4K and 8K language, that's still tying it to TVs and monitors and cell phones. I mean, we were all caught off guard when Oculus and Vive showed that you didn't have to put a 5-inch Note screen that was taken off of a Galaxy Note and put it on a VR headset. You can take two screens and turn them portrait mode, and that's what they use currently, that vertical resolution. And you can, like we said earlier, you can cut these screens in any density, any panel, as long as you put money into it. And that's what I think we're going to see with not only the displays and the optics and the sensors, but also on the maybe the hardware running it. I can totally see in NVIDIA or AMD's pipeline, it would not be far-fetched to see VR dedicated graphics cards that work better for VR than they would for desktop computing.
That's interesting.
Just like there are graphics cards that NVIDIA makes that are for workstations and for rendering that aren't necessarily great for PC gaming, I could see a VR tier of graphics cards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, NVIDIA, at least I think it was NVIDIA, they tried to push that SLI solution where each card was working for a different eye.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of that's still bootstrapping existing PC hardware to work for VR. Because, yeah, it is PC gamers and people who have $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 PCs who are spending $800 on VR headsets now. But as we see more software come out, and as I think we're all eagerly awaiting the next generation of VR hardware, it'll be interesting to see where Oculus and Valve may diverge. Like the Oculus inside-out tracking headset does seem a little bit more on the mass market, lower fidelity side of things.
Yeah, for sure.
While on the Valve side, I could totally see them embracing more of it, and whether tethered or untethered, a more more expensive, high-end product, which I'm totally fine with. And I think there is enough of. Valve definitely has enough money to support development of that and making content for that. But I think there's enough of an audience currently with the enthusiast community that they're just like there were for PC gaming back in the late 80s and early 90s and the mid 90s to support VR as a niche high-end platform.
Yeah. Would
you be disappointed if VR ended for the next 5 years being niche and high-end?
Well, I mean, they go hand in hand, don't they? I mean, I would probably still be a part of it. It's just unfortunate because it's like there's always going to be a chicken and egg thing. We're going to get these small games that look like demos, until we have enough of a market to make it worthwhile for the developers. So, I mean, the 80s were a long time when computers were expensive.
Yep.
And we were playing low-budget games.
And we were happy to pay a lot of money and happy to...
It didn't really become a thing that was a huge market until the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like, we might be in for the long haul here in terms of being niche. And I'll be a part of it. But
it's a question of whether the leaders are going to have the patience.
And maybe social is the spreadsheet of VR in that back in the 80s, you justified spending $2,000 on a PC because you had word processing and spreadsheets, and then you could also get your Creative Lab sound card and graphics card and play games. And maybe social communications is the justification to adopt VR, which can scale low. You can have low-end social, low fidelity social, and high-end social with the same, with parity for interactions. But then people who want to spend more money can play the high-end niche VR experiences.
I'm just tempering myself for Valve time, because who knows how long these games could take when it's done.
You wake up 3 days later, oh, the headset's still on. That's how long those Valve games.
Oh, sure. Any new things? Now, Jeremy, we tried some. We played some VR games this week when you got back from vacation, right?
Yeah, we jumped in my favorite new game, Racket NX.
Racket NX. Kishore, have you played this?
Yeah, that game's fun. I don't have an environment that's well suited for it. My office isn't big enough.
Yeah, it really needs a 360.
Yeah.
But I'm playing with the standard parallel rift setup, and I'm doing all right. Like I spin one way and then I spin counterclockwise and spin clockwise.
And it's also a game that as we were playing it, so to describe it, it's like a racquetball, 360 racquetball in VR. You can play multiplayer, and you're trying to hit these targets and win points and deduct points from your opponent. You really love the physics.
I do. I mean,
of the
really,
racket.
It feels like it's like ping pong physics in a racquetball setting. You can really put English on these balls, and it just feels right. It's not easy to do, and they did a great job with it. But I'd never played multiplayer until I played with you, and that was interesting because if you hit the ball, it hits a wall wherever you send it, and then it goes to your opponent, and you can't even hit the ball. Like the ball changes color.
Yeah, the interactions, it's really possession based.
Yeah.
So I get a possession, you get a possession, and I'm just watching. We're just sharing the environment as we try to hit these same targets. You don't need to move around a lot in it, like physically walk around, but 360 and untethered really help.
Oh, yeah.
This game.
In fact, maybe that's why I just tried to pre-order that Vive.
The TP Cast?
The TP Cast, yeah. But of course you can't yet.
Wait, when you've done 360, you're doing just two sensors, or did you add the third sensor?
No, I didn't. And I'm not even doing corner to corner. I'm doing parallel, and it works well for me.
You still get occlusion. I get occlusion.
If I did when we were playing, I didn't notice it.
I have to actively compensate for that occlusion. And I actually know, not just from being tethered, but I know when I'm facing away from the computer screen and the sensors, because I know if I move the controller in front of my chest, I'll lose tracking, and I can see the artifact, like the lag in the controller, and then I'll know, okay, got to spin back around again. Yeah. And that's it's on Steam VR, but of course you can launch it via your Oculus. Something you can also launch now in the Oculus Store, Tilt Brush.
Yeah, how about that?
Did you see the large-scale Tilt Brush environment? It was like 4 or 8 mile long.
What are you talking about? Oh, you can download?
Yeah, that you can download. And it's incredibly long. People are building giant rooms out of it, and more than just they're building spaces that they can be within, not just objects in front of them, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I love that it's on Rift now. I wonder what that port was like to accommodate the different controls. If that posed any challenges for them, or if that was somehow easy because there's a few more things you can do with them, with the gestures and such.
Jeremy, you posted this story. Google just posted a new face scanning technology.
Did you? Yeah, it's a great video. We should put that in the show notes. BuzzFeed apparently has a video channel, and they went and visited Google, and they played around in Tilt Brush, and Google demonstrated this face scanning technology where they would scan their faces before they went into VR, and then they would put the headset on. The headset, for some reason, needed a QR code on it. But then the third-party camera that was shooting the guy with the headset, in the virtual space against like a green screen, it mapped their face onto where the headset was. So it was a continuous face, as if they had a transparent headset on. So you saw the person's whole head, and right there across the goggles, you saw their eyes and their nose and everything else. And I think that there was some kind of eye tracking inside the headset as well, so that their eyes would move and they could make them blink. And that was all artificial, but it was mapped using real scanning technology. It was pretty neat. I'm not sure where you would use this.
So without the eye tracking, it would just be like a model of your face, and you'd have dead eyes.
Exactly.
But you would, instead of seeing a headset, you'd see someone's face. And it allows for fast avatar creation.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I suppose that's it, but it really does lend itself to this mixed reality shooting too, because it gives you eyes. And there's that old adage, the eyes are the windows to the soul, and they mentioned that, and that's true. Like, you enjoy watching people more when you can see their eyes.
It looks good. That's the other thing.
Well, I mean, it looks interesting. Yeah, I mean,
it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's very like 80s sci-fi,
right.
Like Total Recall, and Lawnmower Man.
Well, you have so much real around that, like the real head is there, the real body's there.
Right, because it's the mixed reality footage.
Yeah, it's just the eyes, and so maybe that there's so much real that actually it works.
It's a hack to get around the fact that your eyes are blocked off by the headset.
What they didn't show was this mapped into VR. Like, that would be interesting to go into big room.
Because this is just the video.
Yeah.
This is just in the video output from the mixed reality video capture.
But if I could mix my eyes and my real face onto an
In a big
avatar
screen.
in VR and look at you guys in VR, that's what I want. Like,
Well, you're just talking about basic avatar creation then.
Sure, but incorporating
With eye tracking.
and my actual face scan. You know, it'd be like it'd be one step closer to being with a real person.
Well, when we went to the USC last year, I mean, avatar creation was a huge part of what they talked about, and you know, they believe with their research is you can do face scans, I mean, photogrammetry face scans really cheaply now, and really quickly. The turnarounds quickly, and you can map those models to the face scans. Because anyone who knows modeling, you do a photogrammetry face scan, you get the texture, you get the geometry, but you don't get any of the rigging. For the skeletal systems.
Right.
And so the automatic rigging is the magic when you can get that kind of scan and the block of digital clay and put it on a skeletal body, maybe a preform, like a preset, and then have it so it's matched up to your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your hands. But the eye part is the tough part. And that's why you need companies like Fove who are researching eye tracking to make that happen. Like there's no third-party eye tracking consumer eye tracking technology. I agree. I would love for that to be an extra layer of data that we send along into the API for developers to tap into. But outside of the social use for it, like Facebook, if you look at their demos, like what Mark Zuckerberg showed at Connect with Michael Booth and the avatars.
Yeah,
it's all fake face tracking. Like what John Carmack was saying is like, oh, you can fake it by having the eyes, you know, with intentionality being anticipated or using head track data to map out.
Better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. Yeah, and that's what big screen does.
Yeah.
But you want the idea to be able to look at someone with your head, but peer somewhere else. Like that's a whole different type of communication.
Yeah. No, I think real eye tracking is going to change the immersion level with multiplayer tremendously. I do. I mean, having done that podcast with you guys, that's what I missed.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between doing like a Skype podcast with just audio to doing a VR podcast, actually being in person. And we're closing that gap is, I think, we all agree, the big potential of VR. Something that VR may not be able to overcome, or at least we're still waiting to see the first instance, is the locomotion problem. Yeah. So Fallout 4, Bethesda's Fallout is getting adapted to VR. They announced this last E3. And along with Doom, I guess. Doom is also getting ported to VR in some capacity.
That's right.
And while no one has played the full Fallout 4 in VR yet, Todd Howard of Bethesda said that the game is trying every single locomotion option possible. So everything we can imagine, from scaling.
Does that mean they're going to allow the user to choose different
That's
options?
what I don't think that's clear, but he says what they've had so far is very compelling. I think the locomotion solution has to match the game, or the game has to be designed for the solution.
Yeah, teleportation so easily breaks Fallout.
Right. And Fallout was designed not for that, was designed for holding down for time passing.
Right.
So you have to design either the game for the solution, or if you have one particular solution that works, you have to limit that solution to work for the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all want an Oblivion. We all want a Fallout, a full open world environment to explore in VR.
We just don't want to throw up.
I just don't know if that's reasonable. Like without I can't. Smart people are thinking about it, but
this is a frustrating limitation of VR.
It is
big time, because my whole life I've wanted VR, and I didn't anticipate that it would make me motion sick,
or that you wouldn't be able to walk around.
Right.
And you don't think that what was that thing that Will was on one of the GDCs, that device?
Omni. No.
That was terrible.
That treadmill. No, it wasn't real treadmill. No. Yeah. Like faking the motions, even all the solutions that people have come up with, tracking their hips and just using hip movement as a way to get around.
Yeah, I've tried that.
It isn't the real thing.
You don't think wireless will make a difference here when we're at room scale? Because we talked so much about how you can make with a 15 by 15
Well,
room
then
space.
who can afford that? Like, who's going to have that much space?
Well, I believe that when you're in VR, small motions can feel like big motions. We know that, right? Like small movements, as long as the relative motions are all synced up, you can project bigger motions. It's why redirected walking works. And I think a version of that kind of redirected walking for motion. So I think it's going to end up being that kind of tracked hip, making small steps.
You do.
Meaning that transfer to big steps.
I hope we find a way to do it. My feeling so far is like the biggest success has been lone echo, where you can propel yourself at a constant rate in one direction in a zero-G environment.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make me motion sick. And when I finished that demo, when was that? GDC?
No, it was a Connect, Oculus Connect.
Right. When I finished that demo there, I felt like that might be the template for what would become the FPS for VR. Like it'll just be zero-G environments everywhere.
You just have to design the game for that limitation.
And then like all these FPSs that could be considered Wolfenstein clones,
Mm-hmm.
they'll all just be lone echo clones forever.
Right. Or it's all spaceships. It's all cockpit games.
That's what I mean. Like it's just zero-G, constant rate.
Cockpit.
Yeah. So that's it. That was an interesting solution. That is the best so far for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to play that game. Speaking of events and GDC is next week, and so Oculus was not at CES, and I anticipate hopefully we'll see a lot of new content from both Steam VR developers and Oculus developers, and maybe some new hardware from third-party makers, accessories. I'd love to see some stuff at GDC. So we'll be there next week to check that out as well. New releases?
Rhombus of Ruin came out yesterday.
Wow.
Well, 2 days ago for the listeners.
Yeah, for PSVR.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I will be trying that before next week's show. I'm a big fan of Psychonauts. Love that game. Back to the new one on Kickstarter. So apparently the new one, this VR episode takes place right after the end of Psychonauts and you're on the spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gotten okay reviews, 80s. So I'm excited about it.
Is it a full game?
Well, is any VR game a full game? I don't know. It's a $20 game.
I mean, that's I think that's gonna be a big question this year. I mean, I would argue The Climb is a full game.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Good
That's
point.
absolutely a
There's
full
a
game.
handful.
Yeah. I think that's the trend I hope this year is that we'll start to see full games, like what people think of as full 10, 20-hour experiences come out for VR.
Honestly, though, I don't know if I need that necessarily.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, I keep going back to the shorter ones. I love Space Pirate Trainer. I just hop in there, play around, and I'm done. It's like a game of pinball.
Yep.
I don't know. We don't have anything to compare to. We have so few of the long games.
Yeah.
That's hard to
I want
say.
all. I want
all the above.
I want to see all the above.
But there's
Absolutely.
the comfort factor. Like, I can't play more than an hour of Elite Dangerous.
I just haven't had that experience yet of VR and storytelling combined in that longer game that I know is possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, Arizona Sunshine, I guess, is inching towards that, but I like the multiplayer aspect of that.
Yeah.
More than
Social will make games feel like longer, full games.
Yeah.
Will be the quote unquote easy add-on, even though it's not easy. A little bit of AR news. According to paulthoreau.com, Microsoft, his sources say that Microsoft is not going to do, they had originally planned to do a HoloLens version 2 this year after the $3,000 developer kit, but Microsoft is scrapping plans, according to his sources, for a HoloLens 2 and putting all its efforts into a HoloLens version 3. And not worry about the marketing push and trying to make a consumer product for the current technology. I think it's a good idea. I think AR, we're even further out away, and given some of the news and reports of Magic Leap prototypes and the state of that technology, I think playing the long game is smart. And Microsoft definitely, we know that HoloLens is great for the room tracking, inside-out room tracking works, and so they know where they need to improve in terms of the ergonomics, in terms of the software. Having more time for them to figure out the hardware and more time for their partners to make some software for it only will help AR. It could be good for them.
I have yet to try HoloLens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I want to.
We should go down and try it.
Up? Is it down?
Well, we can go either
We
direction.
can go either direction.
We can go either direction.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll find a reality where we'll mix in the augmentations. Finally, our last segment, we have a music
Testing this week.
Hey, what have you guys been testing? Hey, what have you guys been testing?
Not unlike Steve Lynn, I got myself a Nintendo Mini Classic
You
Edition.
did?
I did.
Where'd you find it? Did you have to like go full black market?
No. Because those are expensive. You can sell them for like
$150.
200%.
Wow.
No, I signed up for one of those text alerts. You know, those services where they'll text you if it comes in stock. Now in stock, I think is the one I used. And it appeared at, I want to say, it's Best Buy or something. And I picked one up, and it came a few days later. And I'm using it the way you're supposed to use it. You're not supposed to have it at your TV. The controller cable is way too short. It's so small. It's meant to be on your desk. It's meant to use up an HDMI port on your monitor that you're not using, and you're supposed to play at your desk in between emails. That's my theory. And
really?
It works really well for that. The controller cable is the right length. It fits nicely. I have two little Amiibo 8-bit guys, Mario and Link, sitting on top. What? We guys are looking so skeptical.
Your use case of playing in between emails has me
Yeah,
dumbfounded.
that's the thing. Like
well, rather than booting up Steam, or playing an actual, new game,
it's a console you
just
plug
switch
into your
the
TV.
input. You switch the input on your HDMI on your monitor.
It's desktop.
Yeah, and you play right there, and it as long as you can get the sound out.
Most kids who don't have desktop computers to plug into.
What
like,
kid wants this? Do you think kids want this? This is for us.
Are you sure about that?
Tell me.
Yeah,
I mean, if there are kids playing 8-bit, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. All I know is, like, I've had it on, and my kids come in the room, and they leave right away. Dad's got pixel art on the screen again.
Mom, Dad's looking at
I'm not
the
even
pixels.
sure this is for either of you because
no.
you're both power users. This is like more for somebody like me, slightly more casual, nostalgic.
Right. If I were to have NES on my desktop in any capacity, it'd be in a window with multitasking.
Yeah.
With a 4K video playing, streaming, on the second display.
Yeah, but this is a nice little unit. The menu's really good, and it's got cool chiptune music in it. And now that you can hack anything into it,
Is that what you're gonna do?
that's why I got back on the Alert Me, because I it's like that really is a huge value boost. But I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been testing out wireless security cameras at my house.
Oh,
So this crazy thing happened. It actually first happened here at the tested office. Somebody spoofed my remote control for my car.
Is that exactly what happened?
So it happened again at my house. And it was really freaky because they were able to activate the garage control.
Did they actually open your garage? Oh my goodness.
So I've been testing some wireless security cameras, and right now the one that I've had the best experience with right now is the Logitech Circle, just because of how easy it was to set up and how good the alert system has been. They all leave a little bit to be desired, the couple that I've tested out. Because I tried one with like just battery interface. That was kind of, I didn't really enjoy that, and I returned it.
now back to your security issue.
Yeah.
I've read that there are two ways that people are doing this. One is to send illegal microwaves that is at great distance outside of your house, and they will reach your keys and cause them to activate, and that will unlock your car and stuff like that. So people are putting their keys in their fridge because that'll shield it. The other way is for them to intercept the signal when you press the button yourself, and your car won't lock or unlock, whatever you're trying to do, or your garage won't close. And then you have to type the code in again, and it works the second time. But what they've done is they've intercepted that first code, which they can then store and then use to reverse whatever you do.
It's hard to say. Like, so when I went to the dealer to get my fobs reprogrammed,
Yeah.
and they basically just clean out the codes that are stored
You
in the
did that?
car. Yeah, I
You
did.
got reprogrammed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because it my garage door was open. It like feels.
But why?
pretty-
How did they open your garage door?
I don't know. So and like they couldn't explain it either. So my garage door code was stored inside the car, inside the.
So they unlock your car and walk into your car. Did you have anything stolen?
No, they did. Same thing that happened here at Tested happened in my garage.
That
where
is
they
bizarre.
went through it. Yeah, it's super weird. Either I'm being like super trolled in like this amazing way, like nothing got stolen, or what else? So yeah, that was an uplifting review of wireless cameras.
Wow.
Do you have a favorite so far?
I said the Logitech Circle is winning out right now, but I have a lot more to check out, I think.
All right.
So the lesson learned is if you have a car that can open wireless lock and unlock remotely, use the manually lock them.
Yeah, I use the button on the door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Norm? What have you been testing?
I'm waiting for some gimbals to arrive. They're on a DHL truck right now. I hopefully we'll be able to talk about them next week. Some camera gimbals. I'm excited to test those.
I heard there was a very what I called once a soulless device might be here to test out. A brewing device. Of some sort.
Yes. We just got the Pico brew in. Yes. So it's a big box, and we'll be concocting our own brews and testing them for a future video.
And what'd you
Joey's
use?
excited about that.
What'd you use to do Still Untitled this week? Because everyone was in different locations.
Exactly. Adam's on tour. So from his dressing room, I believe he's in Virginia right now. We use Zencaster, which is a really cool web app. Zencaster with no E and ter, so zencastr.com. It's a subscription service, but I've been liking it so far, and it allows people, if you do your own podcast and you have remote guests, you can. It uses your onboard microphone or external microphone, and everyone's audios get automatically synced up and uploaded to a connected Dropbox account. So WAV files and MP3s.
So there's like an automatic post-production?
You can pay for automatic post-production, but I just have all the MP3 files and WAV files sent. So after you're done recording your podcast, like if we were all at our homes, as opposed to manually recording with Audacity or Audition or something and then sending those files, this takes care of that.
Okay. And the pod, like what you hear live is actually a lower fidelity version of that?
Yes. And so any of the any of the distortions that you may get, because anyone who's used Skype can sometimes hear like the warping with low bit rate, that goes away because it's just a local file that gets saved. Yeah. And then you can actually put in bumpers, and there's a soundboard built into the web app too, so you can drag in audio files.
What is the video?
There's no video
solution. Oh, it's just audio.
It's just audio.
Okay.
But we're going to try to get a video solution for next week. I'm going to head over to the cave and maybe set something up with a laptop and a Skype picture or something, but we'll try to do that for next week.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. I think that does it for us this week. Also, before we close off, I want to thank you guys out there for listening again. And if you guys have an extra minute after this podcast, if you're at a computer, please do us this favor. It's a huge favor. Go to testedsurvey.com. That's testedsurvey.com. Take a very short anonymous survey about today's episode. It would be a big help to the show. We'd really appreciate it. Again, that's testedsurvey.com. And fill that out. It'll take less than a minute and a half. All right. Do we have an outro?
We have an outro from Fox72, an oldie but goodie.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested.
Oh, is this thing on? I guess it is.
Tested.
Sorry about my voice this week. Nearly 9,000 people injure themselves with a toothpick every year. Says right here in the Snapple.
Thanks, Dad.